Lucy was a hardworking woman in her early 30s, a successful businesswoman who spent most of her days managing her boutique in the city. Her husband, Kevin, was a charming man in his late 30s, an architect with a sharp mind and a warm smile. They had been married for 7 years, and their love was once the envy of many. But as Lucy's career blossomed, so did the demands of her job. Feeling the pressure of balancing work and home, Lucy decided to hire a house help to assist with cooking, cleaning, and other chores. After interviewing a few candidates, she settled on Grace, a soft-spoken, pretty young woman in her mid-20s. Grace was polite, efficient, and seemed trustworthy. Lucy felt a sense of relief, thinking she had found the perfect solution to her domestic woes. At first, everything seemed perfect. Grace quickly adapted to her duties, preparing delicious meals and keeping the house spotless. Lucy noticed how Kevin praised Grace's cooking, often joking that he might get spoiled by the new arrangements. "You've really outdone yourself by hiring Grace," Kevin said one evening, savoring a plate of her chicken stew. Lucy smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. She trusted Kevin completely and thought nothing of his casual compliments. However, as weeks turned into months, Lucy began to notice subtle changes. Grace started dressing a little more elegantly around the house, wearing fitted dresses and applying light makeup. She dismissed it as Grace simply wanting to look presentable, but there was a nagging feeling she couldn't shake. Kevin, too, began spending more time at home. He would often come home early, claiming he needed a break from work. Lucy, busy with her boutique, was grateful that he could relax at home and enjoy the comforts Grace provided. One evening, Lucy returned home after a particularly long day at the boutique. She walked into the living room to find Grace sitting on the couch, engrossed in a brand new smartphone. Its sleek design and unmistakable brand logo caught Lucy's eye immediately. It was the latest model, one even she hadn't considered buying for herself. "Nice phone," Lucy said casually, her voice masking the curiosity that bubbled beneath. "Did you get a bonus job somewhere I don't know about?" Grace looked up, startled. She quickly placed the phone face down on the couch. "Oh, it was a gift," she said, her tone light but her eyes darting nervously. Lucy raised an eyebrow. "A gift? From who?" Grace hesitated for a moment too long before answering. "A friend. Just a close friend." Lucy nodded slowly, her mind churning. She didn't press further, but her suspicion was piqued. Grace's nervousness, combined with the expensive gift, didn't sit right with her. Over the next few days, Lucy began to notice more peculiarities. Grace had started wearing jewelry, delicate gold bracelets and earrings that Lucy hadn't seen before. She also seemed more confident, her once shy demeanor replaced by a subtle arrogance. One evening, as Lucy was folding laundry, she noticed a receipt tucked into one of Kevin's suit pockets. It was for a high-end boutique, listing the purchase of a smartphone, the same model Grace was using. Lucy's heart raced as she pieced things together. Could Kevin have bought Grace the phone? Why would he? That night, Lucy decided to test the waters. Over dinner, she casually asked Kevin, "Have you been shopping lately? I found a receipt from a boutique in your suit pocket." Kevin froze for a split second before recovering. "Oh, that? It was a client gift. I forgot to mention it." Lucy nodded, pretending to accept the explanation. But she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. Lucy tried to put the expensive phone and boutique receipt out of her mind, but the nagging feeling lingered. Grace continued her duties as if nothing had happened, but Lucy couldn't shake the suspicion that something was amiss. One morning, Lucy woke up feeling unusually drowsy, as if she hadn't rested at all. Her thoughts felt hazy, her memory fuzzy. She went about her day, but strange gaps in her recollection left her confused. As she sat in her boutique, Lucy struggled to remember the previous evening's events. Had she asked Kevin about the receipt again? Had Grace behaved oddly? It was as if parts of her memory had been wiped clean. What Lucy didn't know was that Grace had secretly taken matters into her own hands. Panicking after Lucy's probing questions, Grace had sought help from a local herbalist. The herbalist, known for her knowledge of Juju magic, had provided Grace with a potion to mix into Lucy's skincare products. "This will make her forget anything that troubles her," the herbalist had said, handing Grace a small vial of dark liquid. That evening, Grace carefully mixed the potion into Lucy's favorite face cream. "This will keep her distracted," Grace muttered under her breath, a guilty look crossing her face. Over the next few days, Lucy's suspicions seemed to fade, much to Grace's relief. Lucy no longer mentioned the phone or the receipt, and her once sharp demeanor became softer, more distracted. She even began forgetting small details, like where she had left her car keys or which clients she needed to call. Grace watched Lucy with a mixture of guilt and satisfaction. The potion was working. Satisfied that Lucy's sharp instincts had dulled, Grace decided it was time to secure her position in Kevin's life. She took a day off under the guise of visiting her sick mother, but her true destination was the herbalist's small, dimly lit shop at the edge of town. The air inside was thick with the scent of burning herbs and incense. The herbalist, a stern-looking woman named Mama Ebo, greeted Grace with a knowing smile. "You're back," Mama Ebo said, her voice low and gravelly. "How did it go?" Grace beamed. "It worked perfectly. She's like a shadow of herself now, forgetful and distracted." "Thank you, Mama." Mama Ebo chuckled. "I told you it would work. So what brings you here today?" Grace hesitated, glancing around to ensure no one else was listening. She leaned closer. "I need something stronger. Something to make Kevin love me, and to make him dislike Lucy." Mama Ebo raised an eyebrow, studying Grace carefully. "That's dangerous territory. Are you sure about this?" "I'm sure," Grace said firmly. "Lucy doesn't deserve him. She's always too busy with her boutique, and Kevin needs someone who can give him the attention he deserves. That someone is me." Mama Ebo nodded slowly. "Very well. But understand, this kind of magic comes at a cost. Are you willing to pay it?" Grace nodded without hesitation. "I'll do whatever it takes." Mama Ebo reached for a collection of bottles and jars on a cluttered shelf. She mixed various powders and liquids into a small vial, chanting under her breath as she worked. The final product was a reddish potion with a faint, sweet aroma. "This is what you need," Mama Ebo said, handing Grace the vial. "Slip this into his drink or food. He'll become drawn to you, and his heart will turn cold toward his wife." Grace took the vial, her fingers trembling slightly. "Thank you, Mama. I'll make sure to use it wisely."
Mama Ebo's eyes darkened. "Remember, child, love gained through such means rarely lasts. Be careful." Back at the house, Grace waited for the perfect moment. That evening, Kevin was working late in his study. Grace brought him a cup of tea, her heart pounding as she added a few drops of the potion to the steaming mug. "Here you go, sir," she said sweetly, placing the cup on his desk. Kevin looked up and smiled. "Thanks, Grace. You've been such a big help lately." Grace's stomach fluttered with anticipation as Kevin took a sip. Over the next few days, Grace began to notice subtle changes in Kevin's behavior. He was warmer toward her, often seeking her out for casual conversations and lingering in the kitchen when she was cooking. At the same time, his attitude toward Lucy grew colder. He became distant, snapping at her over minor things and spending more time away from their bedroom. Meanwhile, Lucy's foggy mind began to clear. One morning, she decided to stop using her skincare products, suspecting they might be causing her unusual forgetfulness. Slowly, her sharp instincts returned, and she started piecing together the events of the past few weeks. One evening, she overheard Grace on the phone in her room. "He's changing, just like Mama said," Grace whispered, her tone smug. "It's only a matter of time before he's mine completely." Lucy's blood ran cold. She realized Grace had been plotting against her all along. Determined to reclaim her life and her marriage, Lucy paid a visit to her Aunt Agatha, a woman known for her wisdom and knowledge of traditional remedies. Lucy explained everything: the foggy mind, the tension in her marriage, and Grace's suspicious behavior. Aunt Agatha listened carefully before handing Lucy a bundle of herbs. "Burn these in your home tonight," she instructed. "It will cleanse the air and undo any dark magic that's been cast. But be warned, this will reveal the true source of the trouble." That evening, Lucy followed Aunt Agatha's instructions. She burned the herbs, the smoke filling the house with a pungent yet calming scent. As the air cleared, Lucy noticed Grace growing visibly uncomfortable. She fidgeted, her eyes darting nervously around the room. Kevin entered the room, drawn by the unusual smell. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking puzzled. Before Lucy could respond, Grace blurted out, "It's nothing. Just some incense." But the tension in the room was palpable. Kevin's gaze shifted between Lucy and Grace, a flicker of confusion and doubt crossing his face. Lucy's sharp eyes bore into Grace as she stood her ground. "Enough of the lies, Grace," Lucy said firmly. "I know what you've done, and you're no longer welcome in this house." Grace's face turned pale, but she quickly masked her fear with feigned innocence. "I don't know what you're talking about, madam." Kevin looked between the two women, confusion and frustration clouding his expression. "Lucy, what's going on? Why are you accusing Grace?" "Kevin, open your eyes." Lucy snapped. "She's been manipulating us, using dark magic to drive a wedge between us. I overheard her admitting it on the phone." Grace gasped dramatically. "Sir, I would never do such a thing. I've only ever worked hard to help this household. She's lying." Kevin frowned, uncertainty flickering across his face. "Lucy, this all sounds far-fetched. Grace has been nothing but kind and helpful. Maybe you're overreacting." Lucy's heart sank. "Overreacting? Kevin, I've been your wife for 7 years. How can you take her side over mine?" Grace stepped closer to Kevin, placing a hand lightly on his arm. "Sir, I think Madam is just stressed. Maybe she needs some rest." Lucy's eyes narrowed, fury bubbling inside her. "She's manipulating you even now." But Kevin, tired of the escalating tension, raised a hand. "That's enough, Lucy. I won't send Grace away without proof." Lucy's jaw tightened. She realized Kevin's mind was no longer entirely his own, and it wasn't just his naivety. Grace's spell was working. The following week, Lucy decided to spend a weekend at her parents' house to clear her mind. She hoped the distance would help her regain her strength and strategize her next move. As soon as Lucy left, Grace wasted no time taking full advantage of her absence. She dressed provocatively, cooked Kevin's favorite meals, and subtly flaunted her charm. Kevin, still under the influence of the love potion, found himself drawn to her despite a lingering sense of guilt. One evening, as they shared dinner, Grace leaned closer, her tone playful. "Sir, you deserve someone who truly appreciates you. Someone who puts you first." Kevin hesitated, but didn't pull away. Grace's presence felt intoxicating, and though a part of him knew it was wrong, he couldn't resist. When Lucy returned, she was greeted by an unexpected sight. Grace lounging on the couch with her legs crossed, wearing a smug expression. She didn't rise to greet Lucy, but instead looked her over dismissively. "Welcome back, madam," Grace said coolly. "How was your trip?" Lucy's eyes narrowed. "What's with the attitude, Grace? Remember your place." Grace smirked. "Maybe it's you who needs to remember your place. This house, it doesn't feel like yours anymore." Lucy's breath caught. "Excuse me?" Grace stood, her voice laced with confidence. "Let's be honest, madam. Kevin doesn't want you here. He's happier without you. Maybe it's time you left." Lucy's anger flared. "You're out of your mind if you think I'm leaving my own house. Kevin and I built this life together. You're nothing but a servant." Grace shrugged, unbothered. "Maybe, but right now I'm the one he wants." That night, Lucy confronted Kevin in their bedroom. "Kevin, this has to stop. Grace has crossed every line, and you're letting her." Kevin sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Lucy, you're making this a bigger issue than it needs to be. Grace is just helping out." Lucy stared at him, tears welling in her eyes. "Helping out? She's trying to replace me. And you're letting her?" Kevin avoided her gaze, the love potion clouding his judgment. "I just don't think it's fair to send her away without reason." Lucy shook her head, heartbroken. "If you can't see what's happening, then maybe I need to leave. Temporarily." Kevin looked startled but said nothing as Lucy packed a small bag and left the house. Determined to save her marriage and expose Grace for who she truly was, Lucy returned to Aunt Agatha. "She's gotten bolder," Lucy told her aunt, her voice trembling with anger. "And Kevin won't even listen to me. I need something stronger to break this hold she has over him." Aunt Agatha nodded solemnly. "Then it's time to fight fire with fire." will cleanse not just your home, but Kevin's spirit as well. This will reveal the truth and break any spell she's cast.
Lucy agreed, her resolve firm. She wasn't going to let Grace win, not without a fight. Lucy's heart raced as she approached her home. She had spent the past few days with Aunt Agatha, regaining her strength and preparing to take back her life. Armed with herbs, prayers, and an unwavering determination, she felt ready to confront Grace and reclaim her marriage. But as she pulled into the driveway, Lucy's confidence faltered. There, on the lawn, were her belongings, her clothes, shoes, and even her wedding photos, all stuffed into bags and haphazardly dumped outside. Her chest tightened as she stepped out of the car. The front door swung open, and Grace appeared, dressed in a vibrant new outfit that Lucy had never seen before. Behind her stood an older woman and a young man, Grace's relatives, judging by their resemblance to her. "Oh, you're back," Grace said casually, leaning against the doorframe. Her smug expression made Lucy's blood boil. "What is this?" Lucy demanded, gesturing to her belongings. "Why are my things outside?" Grace shrugged. "Kevin asked me to clear the house. He said you're staying away permanently." Lucy's fists clenched. "That's a lie and you know it. Kevin would never throw me out like this." Grace smirked. "Wouldn't he? You left, madam. The house needed someone to take charge and I'm here now. You should have stayed where you were." The older woman stepped forward, her arms crossed. "Grace told us about how you abandoned your husband and left her to manage everything. A wife who can't take care of her home doesn't deserve to be here." Lucy's voice shook with anger. "Who are you to lecture me about my marriage? This is my house." The younger man, clearly emboldened by Grace, chuckled. "Not anymore, madam. Grace is running things now. You're better off leaving quietly." Lucy stormed past them, determined to find Kevin and demand an explanation. She found him in the living room, sitting with a drink in his hand and looking more detached than ever. "Kevin!" she called out, her voice cracking. "What is the meaning of this? Why are my things outside?" Kevin looked up, his expression blank. "Lucy, I told you. This isn't working anymore. You left, and Grace has been holding everything together." Lucy's eyes filled with tears. "I left to clear my head, Kevin. I needed time to figure out how to save our marriage. And this is how you repay me." Kevin avoided her gaze. "Maybe it's better this way. Grace has been good to me. She understands me." Lucy's heart shattered. She knew the love potion was clouding his judgment, but hearing those words still cut deeply. Grace sauntered into the room, a triumphant smile on her face. "See, madam, you're not needed here anymore. Why not make this easier on everyone and leave?" Lucy straightened her back, refusing to let Grace see her broken. She reached into her purse and pulled out a bundle of herbs that Aunt Agatha had given her. "This isn't over," Lucy said firmly, walking toward the center of the living room. Grace's confident demeanor faltered. "What are you doing?" Lucy ignored her, lighting the herbs and letting the smoke fill the room. The scent was strong, and almost immediately Kevin groaned, clutching his head. "What is that smell?" he muttered, his voice strained. Lucy stepped closer to him. "It's the truth, Kevin. You've been under a spell, and it's time you saw things clearly." Grace lunged toward Lucy, but the older woman pulled her back, clearly afraid of the ritual. "Stop this nonsense!" Grace shouted, panic evident in her voice. Lucy continued, chanting the words Aunt Agatha had taught her. The smoke thickened, and Kevin let out a cry, collapsing onto the couch. "What's happening to him?" Grace screamed. Lucy turned to her with fire in her eyes. "The spell you placed on him is breaking, and when it does, he'll see you for who you truly are." As the smoke began to dissipate, Kevin sat up, his face pale and his eyes wide with realization. He looked at Grace, then at Lucy, his expression a mixture of confusion and horror. "Lucy, what's going on?" he asked, his voice trembling. "You were under her spell," Lucy said, pointing at Grace. "She used dark magic to manipulate you, to turn you against me." Kevin turned to Grace, disbelief etched on his face. "Is this true?" Grace stammered, her bravado crumbling. I was only trying to help. She doesn't deserve you, Kevin. I love you." Kevin recoiled, anger flashing in his eyes. "You lied to me. You used me." Grace fell to her knees, pleading. "Kevin, please. It was all for us. I just wanted to be with you." Kevin shook his head, disgusted. "Get out. All of you leave my house." Grace's relatives scrambled to gather their belongings as Kevin called for security to escort them out. Grace sobbed, clinging to Kevin's leg, but he pulled away. Lucy watched silently, her heart heavy but relieved that the truth had finally come to light. When Grace and her family were gone, Kevin turned to Lucy, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry, Lucy. I don't know what came over me. Can you ever forgive me?" Lucy hesitated, her emotions conflicted. "It's going to take time, Kevin. You broke my trust. But for now, let's focus on rebuilding what she tried to destroy." With Grace out of their lives, Lucy and Kevin began the slow but deliberate process of rebuilding their marriage. The ordeal had shaken them to the core, but it also served as a wake-up call. Lucy realized that she had been neglecting some aspects of her role as a wife. Not intentionally, but through the busyness of her boutique and daily life. Determined to strengthen her bond with Kevin, Lucy made small but meaningful changes. She took time to learn his favorite recipes, surprising him with delicious home-cooked meals that warmed his heart and brought them closer together. She also rekindled her interest in their shared hobbies, like gardening and reading together in the evenings. Kevin, too, made an effort to show appreciation for Lucy's hard work and dedication, recognizing how much she truly cared for their marriage. The couple began communicating more openly, sharing their fears, dreams, and feelings in ways they hadn't before. Though the scars of the betrayal lingered, the experience ultimately made them stronger. Lucy became not just a better wife, but a more attentive partner, and Kevin grew into a more supportive and loving husband. Together, they built a deeper connection, proving that even after the darkest storms, love can find a way to shine again.